What's going on, Shuffle Squad? I hope you all having a fantastic day. Well, Temporal Forces is finally here in PTCGL, and that means one thing. Well, two, really. New decks and rotation came with it? Yeah, rotation came with Temporal Forces in PTCGL early, so that means we need to start talking about decks that are actually going to impact our meta when rotation finally comes. And I can't think of a better deck from Temporal Forces that is going to impact the meta the way that Ancient Box will. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about the new deck that comes out from Temporal Forces. However, before we actually jump into the deck list, I want to thank these amazing sponsors. Yes, that's right. This channel is sponsored by all these amazing people, and you can check out their links down in the description. If you use any of these services, from buying singles, buying card sleeves, even just coaching, it helps support the channel altogether. So if you like what we do here and want to support us here at the Shuffle Squad, check out the links in the description because it does go a long way. So let's jump into the deck. Temporal Forces brought a lot of new amazing cards to the format. However, it brought a whole deck that just needs to be talked about because Ancient Box is definitely a deck that you need to be aware of and you might want to actually play because it is super powerful, super fun, and pretty much only filled with one prizers, which is so good because you're not losing all your prizes fast, right? So let's talk about the actual deck. We have the new Roaring Moon, not the Moon EX, though it is in the deck. We have a new Roaring Moon. It is a baby Roaring Moon that has 140 HP. It is a dark type Pokemon and it has 2 attacks. One of them being Vengeance Fletchling. It does 70 base damage and does 10 more damage for each ancient card in your discard pile, which means, yeah, the supporters, the new ace spec, all of your Pokemon, your tools, all of that have the ancient tag in the card, yeah, it's going to boost the damage output of Roaring Moon, and you can reach some crazy numbers with its Vengeance Fletching attack. Speed Wing is another attack that Roaring Moon has that we're not going to discuss because it's 120 base, and usually if you're using that, you're behind, and it's not good, and you should scoop it up because if you're not doing more than 120 with the Vengeance Fletching, there's something wrong. So Roaring Moon is our first Pokemon that we're talking about, and it is great. Next up, we do have the Roaring Moon EX, which does kind of deviate away from being a single prize deck. However, if you're using this in the late game or as your last attacker of the game to get 2 prize cards, it's really, really powerful because Frenzy Gouging for 2 dark and a colorless lets you knock out your opponent's active Pokemon, which is great because that means you're going to get your last 2 prizes. Now, the downside here is that you're going to take 200 damage, but if it's your last attack of the game, that 200 damage is really just nothing because you're going to win. So, Roaring Moon EX here, 1 copy, that's it, perfect, that's all you need. Next up, we have Koraidon. Koraidon is another new ancient Pokemon out of Temporal Forces. It is a dragon-type Pokemon with 140 HP with 2 attacks, which 1 attack we're not using at all because we don't play Fire Energy, but the first attack is what makes this deck so busted. Primordial Beatdown does 30 damage for each of your ancient Pokemon in play for a fighting and a colorless. We do play fighting, and that colorless can be dark, it can be another fighting, but it's super easy to get onto Koraidon, especially on turn 2, or even turn 1 going second. But the point is, if you have an entire field full of ancient Pokemon, you're doing 180 damage with Koraidon, or you're doing 150 if you have your Radiant Greninja in play, which are great numbers to have because 2 of these Koraidon attacks, you can knock out a Charizard EX, no problem, so long as your entire field is covered in ancient Pokemon. So you can start using this thing in the early game, in the late game. This is your big attacker, and your big finishing attacker is the Roaring Moon. This guy is going to be in and out of your active often, and this is the key card of the deck. Next up, we have Fluttermane. Fluttermane is another new Pokemon out of Temporal Forces. It has 90 HP. It is a Psychic type Pokemon, and it is here for its Midnight Fluttering. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent's active Pokemon have no abilities except for Midnight Fluttering. So you're shutting down a lot of different Pokemon just by having this in the active. Things like Comfey, things like Golden Go, anything that is in the active, they can't use their abilities, which is absolutely amazing. Hex Hurl is its attack. It costs 3 colorless. It's a little harder to build up this attack in this deck. However, if you do, it's not bad if you're in the Lost Box matchup because it does 90 damage. It's going to be in the active, so you're shutting down any of the Comfeys, and then you get to put 2 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon in any way you like. So you can spread 1-1, or you could do 2 damage to something. It doesn't really matter. So this card is good, and you should 100% play it in this deck. Excuse me. Sorry. Continuing. 3, 2, 1. Great Tusk is another new amazing Pokemon from Temporal Forces. I'm starting to notice a theme here, are you? So, 140 HP fighting type Pokemon, and it has 2 pretty decent attacks. The first attack is Land Collapse. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck. That doesn't sound all that impressive, but if you played an Ancient Supporter card from your hand during this turn, you can discard 3 more cards this way, meaning you could discard up to 4 cards from your opponent's deck if you just simply played something like an Explorer's Guidance or a Sada, which is really good in the late game if they're starting to build themselves down and they don't expect the Great Tusk, but it can also be really good in the early if you're trying to get rid of certain things from their deck that might hinder your performance later on. You also have Giant Tusk here. It's 160 damage for 2 fighting and 2 colorless. This attack is a little bit more difficult to build up, but it is doable, and 160 is a pretty relevant number, and being fighting is also pretty relevant because Arceus is coming back, so being able to knock out Arceus with Great Tusk isn't all that bad at all. So, the last Pokemon, Radiant Greninja. This is our emotional support frog. That is it. Really, though, he is here for the concealed cards. We get to dump a energy card from our hand and draw 2 cards. We want energy in the discard because we are playing Sada, and Radiant Greninja helps us get there. Its Moonlight Shuriken attack, unfortunately, is unavailable to us in this build, but that concealed cards is what matters. Next up, let's just talk about the relevant trainers in this deck. So we do have Explorer's Guidance. Explorer's Guidance is one of the new supporter cards that came out in Temporal Forces, and it allows you to look at the top 6 cards of your deck and put 2 of them in your hand and the others in the discard. This card is actually amazing with Roaring Moon because you could take 2 cards that you really need for that turn and dump the rest, and if the rest are ancient cards, well, guess what, buddy? You are increasing the damage output of your Roaring Moon. Plus, the Explorer's Guidance is going to be in the discard pile after you use it, which means if you discard 4 ancient cards with Explorer's Guidance, and then the Explorer's Guidance itself goes into the discard, you're pumping up Roaring Moon's attack by 50 for the rest of the game, unless you put those cards back into your deck, which is amazing. Next up, we have Professor Sada's Vitality. Everybody should know what this does by now, but you could choose up to 2 of your ancient Pokemon and attach basic energy cards from your discard pile to those 2 Pokemon and then draw 3 cards. So you could build up your Roaring Moon, you could build up your Koraidon, just put 1 energy on each and then draw 3 and attach and attack. So really good card, especially if you're going if you're going second, you can attack right away, which is really good. Another new really relevant card in this, one of the newest cards in this, is the new Awakening Drum. Awakening Drum is a new item A-spec card with the ancient tag that allows you to draw a card for each ancient Pokemon in play. So if you have 6 ancient Pokemon in play, you're drawing 6 cards off of an item card, which helps us find some really relevant pieces like our Sadas, our Explorers. We can even find Counter Catcher this way. We can find our ancient booster energy capsule, which we're playing 4 of. We can find a lot of amazing cards here just by using this one Awakening Drum. Next up, our most pivotal card here that I think is definitely going to be the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. Now, you'll notice that almost all of our ancient Pokemon, besides Fluttermane, have 140 HP. This card will allow us to boost our Pokemon up to 200 HP and still be able to be a single prize deck, which is really good because a lot of those EX Pokemon that most people are playing only have 220 HP. So you're only 20 HP off from a full EX Pokemon, and you have the damage output of a full EX Pokemon while being a single prize deck, which is super, super relevant. But that is going to be the majority of the cards here that I want to talk about. We're going to jump into some games and show you guys the power of the actual deck. And don't forget, the entire deck list will be in the description below. So let's jump into some games. Alright guys, here we go into our first game with the Ancient Box deck. I'm super excited to give this a shot. This is one of the decks that have been on my radar since I saw some of the cards come out for Temporal Forces. And I gotta say, it's amazing. Now, this deck is really fun to play, but it can be a little bit difficult, especially if you miss sequence. So that is something that you need to be aware of. Your sequencing really matters in this deck. So let's see if we can use it to our potential, our fullest ability, and win this match. Now, it looks like our opponent is going to choose to go first, which is fine for us. Going second or going first, this deck can be comfortable doing both. So it doesn't really matter, which is nice to have the ability to be comfortable going first or second, especially the way that the format is going. So that is really good. Now, we did take a mulligan here. Ooh, this hand is kind of not great, actually. We don't have any energy to discard to use this Sada. We have Earthen Vessel, we do have Artazon, so we can get something on the bench, and we are up against Chen-Pao. Okay, so this could be a pretty iffy matchup. We definitely want to rely on having our Roaring Moons available to us, but we'll see how this goes. We're going to need a really decent top deck here too. If we can top deck an energy, I think we'll be fine. If we can top deck an energy, we'll be fine. If we top deck like the Greninja or Nest Ball or something like that, we'll be fine. We have quite a few outs to this, so I think if the top deck is very kind to us, we should have a game. If the top deck is not kind to us, we're going to go behind in a prize, and Roaring Moon is probably going to get knocked out here. Thank goodness we do have the Artazon. Opponent did play that new Buddy PAF, and now that is the one unfortunate thing about Ancient Box that, you know, kind of is a little stinky, right? We can't play Buddy PAF to build up our bench. We got to do it the old-fashioned way with Pokemon Search and Artazon and things like that. So a little upsetting there, but hey, it is what it is, right? Ooh, this Pokestop could actually help us big time. Could help us big time. Let's see here. I don't think I can get a KO on that PAL right away, so that's a little unfortunate. But we could possibly get some damage on it, so it's not that big of a deal. This is where starting Flutter main could also have been really nice, because then we could shut down that Shivery Chill, and they would have had less resources in the hand, which would have been really cool. The other downside to this deck too is that you play like 0 disruption. You play no disruption. So your opponent can just freely have whatever they want in their hand. It's no big deal. Okay, let's see. We got the Nest Ball. Okay, that is perfect. I want to guarantee the Greninja. I don't want to throw it away. Normally, I would probably want to get an entire bench of ancient Pokemon here. However, I think getting the Greninja down is pretty relevant in this instance. Let's go ahead and use this Pokestop. Okay. Doesn't hurt too bad to actually toss some of these ancient supporters and ancient Pokemon away this early. Simply because we do have the ability to do more damage with more of those in the discard. So it doesn't really matter too much. And we do play Super Rod, so it's not that big of a deal. Let's go ahead and get a Koraidon on the bench. Let's increase our Roaring Moon's HP. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to get rid of this Dark Patch. We're gonna have to grab 2 Dark Energy. I should grab a Fighting Energy for next turn, but hey, right now we need to focus on actually getting some. And we got the Fighting Energy anyway, so you know what? We were not punished. We're gonna go ahead and Sada for 1. Unfortunately, we're not getting the full benefit of the Sada here, but we need to start doing something. We get another Koraidon on bench with that Nest Ball. We will attach for the turn, and then we only do 120. But now homie's only 100 damage away, which isn't difficult to build up. But the hard part here is the fact that we don't have a Sada. We don't have another Pokemon to attack with next turn. And switching around is a little bit difficult with this list. So not being able to build up multiple attackers that can go one after another, that's where the difficulty of playing this deck can really come in. Because if we don't pull it off, then we're going to get really behind. Okay, they play Iron Hands. That's kind of to be expected. Maybe we shouldn't have put down the Greninja, but the Greninja did help us get to where we need to be, because now this Greninja is a 2-prize liability. Chen-Pao could also focus on just trying to not KO any of our Pokemon. They can switch into the Iron Hands to take 2 prizes that way. So Iron Hands, kind of a scary Pokemon to see right now. This Chen-Pao list had everything though. They are going off. Now, we could try and just KO this Baxcalibur, but we're going to have to hit the nuts ourselves. We're going to have to hit everything, absolutely everything, in order to get a knockout on that homie in the back. Now, the really cool thing about this deck is that we can afford to kind of like chase down the Baxcaliburs because we are single prizers. The problem, though, is the Iron Hands. The Iron Hands becomes the issue because then they can start gusting up our Greninja and taking a KO that way. They'll get up to 2 prizes, and we can start falling behind that way. But the further ahead that they are in prizes, the better sometimes, because we can always use our custom catcher. Or not our custom catcher, our... oh, goodness, why can't I... Is it custom catcher? It must be custom catcher. I can't remember now. Counter catcher, that's the name of it. Counter catcher. Okay, so they are using Irida here. They got an Iron Bundle. Now, I've noticed Iron Bundle being played on a lot of decks, and that is something that I also want to kind of talk about. Stall. Stall can actually be a little bit difficult for the Roaring Moon matchup, for the Ancient Box matchup, I should say, because Roaring Moon is a different deck. That is the EX deck. But this deck itself can have a little bit of difficulties playing into the Snorlax matchup, and Iron Bundle is actually a very useful card for that. So I've seen a lot of new decks putting in an Iron Bundle into their deck, just because if they get up against that deck, they have some sort of out, so long as they have Super Rods and Nest Balls and all of that. All right, so there's the Super Cold. We are definitely getting knocked out. I don't think they're not taking the knockout here, unless they decide to, for some reason, gust up the Greninja and then KO with Iron Hands. That's a possibility if they use their Prime Catcher this early. Definitely seems like a possibility. We'll see what they're going to attach the cards to, though. Okay, they're just building up everywhere. That's fine. Oh, okay, the Radiant Greninja play actually makes sense because they can do 90 all over the place, and then they can start using the Iron Hands to take KOs, which I respect that play. That's a really, really smart play to make here. Because even with the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, even with that card, you're sitting in the position where the 120 is still going to be very relevant. And because he's not taking any KOs, we can't gust this up and protect ourselves. So that becomes a little bit unfortunate for us. Okay, so we do have a Switch card here, which isn't bad. Kind of want to hit another Sada if I'm being 100% honest with you. So I'm going to go ahead and thin out my deck. I'm going to play Artazon here. And I'm going to get another Koraidon. And I'm going to conceal cards away the Fighting Energy. No Sada to be found, but that is fine. We're going to bench the Roaring Moon, and we're going to give it a Dark Energy here. We are going to play Explorer's Guidance. Okay, so this is actually pretty good. We're gonna grab the Sada, and then we're going to grab the Switch Cart. Do I want to grab the Switch Cart, actually? Probably should, right? I have one in hand. I only play two. Yeah, because Sada will be our supporter for the next turn, so that is fine. We're going to start building up this. So now Roaring Moon is doing 160 damage already, which is insane. Let's see here. What I can do, actually, what I can do is this. So I'm going to Switch Cart here, because our opponent definitely seems like they want to go for this play. So I'm going to Switch Cart my Roaring Moon, and then Switch Cart the Koraidon that was damaged. And this is going to take the Roaring Moon out of 120 range for the Amp You very much. I'm going to do 160. So now, because they put all this energy on the Iron Hands, if they want to commit to that play, they can't knock out the Roaring Moon, so they're going to need to gust something else out, which leaves a very relevant attacker in play. So they are bringing up the Iron Hands. They could just... They probably don't have the 2 electric energy for the arm press, so even if they only do 120 damage here, it's not a big deal. It is not a big deal at all. Because they will not get the knockout. They won't get 2 prizes. The other ugly thing about that, though, is we will be... we will be a little bit behind. We won't be able to use our counter catcher to bring out the Baxcalibur. That's not a big deal, though. The one downside, too, all things considered, is that because I have the Greninja in play, I cannot use Koraidon to gust up the Baxcalibur for KO because I'm only doing 150 damage at that point. We're going to see a counter catcher. Okay. You know what? I'll take it. I will take it. So they're going to knock out our Greninja, leave us with some really relevant attackers here. We'll go behind in prizes. We know for a fact that they have a Baxcalibur in hand now because of the Irida, but they haven't used it to evolve this Frigibax yet. But because I do have the counter catcher in hand, I could just go for KO on Chen-Pao if I don't have enough damage output to knock out the Iron Hands outright. So that might be the route that I take here. We'll see how this goes. How many... Let's see here. There's one rare candy in here. And there is a Baxcalibur in the discard, which might change. How many Iridas are currently down? There's 2 Iridas down. They do have the Bibarel still in play. They could draw into it. So now I feel kind of enticed to even up the prize trade and just go for KO on Chen-Pao and just slowly build up Roaring Moon. Only has 100 HP left on it. So we should be able to knock it out with a Koraidon. Now, I'm not going to bring up this Koraidon because it's, again, susceptible to Iron Hand, so we don't want that for us. So I think I might just countercatcher out the Chen-Pao, start building up the Roaring Moon slowly, and then take a KO on the Iron Hands later. We're already at 160, so it shouldn't be too difficult to get that built up here soon. Let's go ahead and bring up a Koraidon. All right, so we have an Explorer's Guidance. Not really helpful in this instance. We're going to go ahead and use Artazon here. Just see what's in the deck currently. Do have a Roaring Moon chilling. We do have our Awakening Drum in deck. We do have 4 energy still there. So we're kind of in an okay position. We're not in the worst position in the world. So I'm going to go ahead and use Sadas. We do have some energy in the discard, correct? We do have 1. So that is pretty good. We'll go ahead and get that fighting energy onto the Koraidon. And we'll draw 3 cards. Nice. We did find the Awakening Drum, which is really good. Really relevant. Let's go ahead and we will put the Jet Energy on the Koraidon. I'm going to play the Awakening Drum, draw a whole load of cards, boost Koraidon's HP to 200. We will use Ultra Ball here. We'll get rid of the Roaring Moon and a Explorer's Guidance. So that's 2 more Ancient Pokemon in the discard. We will countercatcher out the Chen-Pao. And we will just go on ahead and beat down for 150. I could have put another Pokemon down, but I don't want it to get trapped in any way. So we're just going to hold Pokemon for the moment. We also have a Super Rod in the hands. So if we can Super Rod something like a Roaring Moon or a Koraidon back into the deck and put it back down immediately, that'd be great. But I want to see where our opponent goes from here. So Frigiback's coming up. Buddy Poffin coming down. And they grab nothing. Okay. That is fair. That is fair. So currently, what is our Roaring Moon doing for damage? So with this, if this gets knocked out, that's 20 more damage. We're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Excuse you. Now I gotta start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we're doing 200 right now. With no other ways to get Pokemon in the discard. So basically, I kind of need a Pokemon to get knocked out this turn in order to get a KO on the Iron Hands. I need a Pokemon to get knocked out this turn to get a KO on the Iron Hands. That is what I'm here. I think I need this Koraidon to get knocked out or this Roaring Moon to get knocked out if I want to get a KO with the on the Iron Hands with a Roaring Moon next turn. Or I need to draw into my Superior Energy Retrieval, which I'm not sure if it's in the deck. I forgot to see. Ultra Ball away backs and a Frigibax. Okay. They most likely play 3 Baxcalibur though. That is the reality. They most likely play 3 Baxcalibur now. So there's the concealed cards. The only attacker that they have that can actually knock out my Koraidon is the Iron Hands. But it can't even knock out the Koraidon. That's the interesting thing. It can't even knock out the Koraidon. So they really don't have much going for them. I mean, they could use... I guess what they could do here is if they can get a Chen-Pao back into deck, they could use the Iron Bundle to put this in the discard, get a Pao back in deck, and retreat the Iron Hands or retreat another 1-cost energy retreat Pokemon like Greninja. But right now, I'm not seeing where the play might be. Oh, okay. They're gonna use. Oh no! They hit us with an Iono. That is not good. Oh, that is actually terrible. This hand is not great. Not great at all. Well, at least now we know that Sada is at the bottom of the deck, so it's nothing that we need to worry about. They could go 90-90, so they can get a knockout here, but they can't knock out here, so they'd go 1 prize there. We would get to 2 on retaliation, and then all we would need to do is produce a moon big enough to knock out the hands. So I don't think we're in a bad position. We'll see if our opponent actually figures that out, though. Prime Catcher. You know what? That works. Now they get 2 prizes here, which kind of hurts us. Actually kind of hurts us because our moon is not big enough to actually knock out the Iron Hand. So we need to actually use this Pokestop to its fullest potential. We need to make sure that we're throwing some cards away. So I am going to put the moon up. Yeah, I'm going to put the moon up. We'll see what we top deck here. We got a Nest Ball. Okay, so we're doing 210. We need 2 more ancient cards in the discard. Can we get there? We got there. Holy cow, we got there. We actually got there. Okay, so what we can do here is we can Nest Ball, get a Roaring Moon back onto the bench. We will use ancient. So we're doing 220 right now. We will use this to discard that to get 2 energy. That should be 230. We'll Dark Patch onto the Roaring Moon. We will attach Return onto this Roaring Moon. We'll make this one bulkier. And then we will use Vengeance Fletching for 230 damage getting the KO. That Pokestop really saved our hides. Really saved us. And there's a Pokégear. We play 4 of those too. I don't think I've seen a single one. Did I? Have I even used one this game? And there, okay, so they do scoop there. Whew. Yeah, so you can see the power of the Roaring Moon. The further along the game gets, the better the card actually becomes. So Roaring Moon is a huge, huge Pokemon for this deck. All right, guys, here we go into another game with Ancient Box. Let's see if we can get another win here, because the first game was really, really kind of scary, but you can see how like the sequencing of the deck kind of is very important, because if you can't build up multiple attackers, then you can't respond after each KO, because you never know if you're going to get Ionoed or anything like that. Now, fortunately for us, they played Pokestop, and that helped us big time. But if we didn't get that done, if that Pokestop didn't get those 2 ancient cards in the discard, then we would have been cooked, I think. So it becomes a little scary sometimes. And see, a hand like this is a no great. It's not great at all. We are going first, though, which is fortunate. And we do have Comfey. Got a Roaring Moon here. Let's go ahead and put down this homie. We will attach for the turn. And we will put down another Koraidon. And we'll pass. We will pass. So going first, again, you're still kind of comfortable going first because the Koraidon's attack all comes down to how many ancient Pokemon you can put into play. So even just by attaching here next turn, we can get a KO on this Comfey. But we might want to dig just a little deeper depending on what our top deck is. So we might have to attach Retreat and then use Sada, but then we don't get KO. So we'll see how this goes. I think we might just have to attach and attack. But if we can get like a Guidance in hand, that would be really sick. I'm also very interested to see what kind of Lost Box deck we're up against. I do see Psychic, which is genuinely unhelpful because most of the time they always play Psychic for the Sableye. So it doesn't really help us there. Does not help us there. Any other hints? We see that. We see Switch, of course, Mirage Gate. So we know nothing about this Lost Box deck so far. Maybe this will be a little bit more telling. Okay, so it's Grass. So it's most likely Giratina. Most likely up against Lost Box Giratina here. So we are not actually going to be able to get a KO on this Cramorant if we do not top deck another ancient Pokemon. Because right now we're only doing 90 damage to the Cramorant, which doesn't feel good, guys. It doesn't feel good. So yeah, we are up against Giratina. I don't think this is something we have to worry about too much. But yeah, they do not get the KO here, thank goodness. So that's the other big thing, is if you're up against this, nice. So we do actually get the KO here, which is great. We definitely want that for us. We'll just go ahead and just snag the KO here. No need to go all crazy and put like Flutter Mane in the active right now. We will take this prize card. It is a Switch card. Okay. Yeah, so the Flutter Mane is sick. We might actually put that in the active next turn, but the problem is we can't really attack with it right now. So we might just keep it on the bench for a little bit, but the longer we wait on the Flutter Mane, the less potent it becomes, because once they get to 7, they really don't care. They're already at 4. So, you know, honestly, Flutter Mane probably isn't going to help us too much in this matchup right now, simply because we didn't get it in the opening hand. If we had started with it, it could have actually launched us further ahead, and they might not have been able to actually attack with the Cramorant. So that's where Flutter Mane becomes the most powerful. It's like in the beginning turns. But since we went first, we didn't have the Flutter Mane. They got to 4. Nothing we can do about it. Nothing we can do about it. So there's a Colress. They are at 7 already. So yeah, Flutter Mane just is not going to help us out much in this matchup here. Now, thankfully, we do have a Sada in hand. So when this Koraidon does go down, we will be able to build up another attacker. Not sure if it's going to be the Moon or the Koraidon. I think the Moon might do a little bit more damage because we're not guaranteed more ancient Pokemon off the Sada. So we might have to produce the Moon. Granted, it is only going to be doing 80 damage. Koraidon will do 90 guaranteed. We'll promote the Flutter Mane because we'll have the Switch cards in hand to get it out of the active. So not too worried about that. They do bring up another Cramorant. So Cramorant is going to come in here. The cool thing, though, is like they did attack first, so we are ahead in the prize race. And if we could get another KO on the Cramorant again, we'll still be ahead in the prize race. So pretty nice. Pretty nice to have that going for us. Bringing up another Comfey. So they probably have another Switch in hand. Let's see what they toss here. Throwing away a lot of Jets. Well, they got... Okay, so they lost a Switch cart. They lost 2 Psychic Energy. Most of the time, they only play 4. Maybe 5 and 4. Any in here? There's one there. So they probably only have 1 Psychic Energy available to them at this time. And if it's in the hand, that's not great for them. And there's this. Okay, perfect. So this is another matchup where like the Roaring Moon EX could actually be really helpful, because if we can KO this thing when they least expect it in the last 2 prizes, that's going to be really powerful. Okay, so I think the proper move is to probably just bring up the Koraidon. Let's see here. We do get an Ancient Booster, which is nice. We'll go ahead and just pop down the Sada. And we'll build up that Roaring Moon on the bench. We'll draw 3. Okay, this is actually turning out a lot better. A lot better. Let's go ahead and put an Ancient Booster Capsule on the Flutter Mane, just because it is a target that can be gusted up and KO'd with a Cramorant. We don't want that for ourselves. No easy KO there. They'll have to go through whatever we throw in the active, and we'll just Primordial beat down for 120 on the Cramorant. No big deal. We do have an Explorer's Guidance in our hand for next turn, which feels great. And an Earthen Vessel, so that's pretty nice. So we will have energy to put on that Roaring Moon. We like that a lot. We like that a lot. And here comes the Giratina V. So we're probably going to see the V-Star, and we're probably going to get smacked by it, but that is fine. We do have 1, 2. This will be the 3rd, 4, 5. So we'll have 50 extra damage on the Roaring Moon next turn, which is pretty good. And we should be able to just attack twice into Giratina for KO. Shouldn't be a big deal there. Even back out the prize trade. And what do we do after that, though? What do we do after that is the question. As much as I want to use the Flutter Mane, everything in my body right now is screaming I shouldn't produce the Flutter Mane. Simply because it is big to build up, and if you don't get energy on it quickly enough, you're not going to do enough damage. So I feel like maybe we shouldn't use the Flutter Mane just yet, and I feel like the 20 damage spread isn't enough right now. We'd have to, like, loop our Flutter Manes a little bit. So there is a Mirage Gate. They got 2 on there. They have a Psychic Energy and discard 2 there. So they are playing 5 Psychic. Okay, that is good to know. 5 is Psychic. Oh, they played Master Ball in this. That's actually kind of sick, so we don't have to worry about a Prime Catcher. So there's a grass here. There's a grass here. Probably 2 more grasses available to them. They're going to shred. Okay. This actually could be good because if we can get a lot of Pokemon into the discard or a lot of ancient cards into the discard, our Roaring Moon could swing for KO, which could be really relevant. Dark Patch. Okay. So we're going to start off right away with the Explorers. Oh, let's grab the Greninja and let's grab the Dark Energy. Yeah, that's fine. We'll grab these 2 homies. Let's go ahead and Earthen Vessel away the Counter Catcher. We will get Greninja on the bench. We will conceal cards away in energy. Draw 2 more cards. We're not there. We're only doing 140 right now, which isn't great. But it's good enough for now. So let's go ahead and attach to the Roaring Moon. We'll go ahead and Dark Patch the Roaring Moon. We will Nest Ball and get ourselves a Koraidon. Or, you know what? Yeah, we'll get a Koraidon for now. So we're getting close to where we might be able to start milling for 4 and be able to take a win that way. So we can pivot our strategy just a little bit into our favor. We'll see if our opponent can see it, though. We haven't revealed that we're playing the Great Tusk, I don't think. So as long as they don't think that we're playing Great Tusk, we should be fine. But we want to be sure that we can actually use the Great Tusk for KOs. The other cool thing at this point, too, now is that Roaring Moon is producing 140 damage. So even if this Giratina V does evolve, we should be able to get a KO here. And they're going to go to 3. We'll go to... Okay, so they're just going to shred. They must not have a lot going on in the hand currently. Or they're probably waiting to Roxanne us. And that could be an issue. That could be a genuine issue for us. So let's see here. We got a Pokégear. Let's go ahead and use a Pokégear. See if we can hit a Sada. We do not hit a Sada, which is a little unfortunate. We're going to Guidance. Oh, that's a lot of Pokemon. Okay, let's grab a Guidance and let's grab a Moon. Or should we grab a Vessel? Let's see. How many? 1, 2, 3, 5. We could grab the Vessel and then draw 2 with Greninja. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. We'll get more ancient cards into the discard this way, which will only make our future moons a lot more powerful. Go ahead and draw 2. We got an Ancient Drum, or Awakening Drum, which is very, very nice. We'll go ahead and grab another Roaring Moon here. And we'll draw a bunch of cards. Although we probably should have held that, but really not that big of a deal currently. Let's do this. We can now... Fletching for 210. We're probably going to get Roxanne this turn, which hurts. But because we drew a bunch of cards... Okay, so there's a Sada in hand. That's actually bad. But because we drew a bunch of cards, we probably will hit our Pokégears. If we can hit our Pokégear, we're going to be in a really good position. Because then we could probably hit a Sada. And if we hit a Sada, we could build up another attacker. I probably went a little too aggressive on getting energy in the discard, though. I will be honest. Be honest there. I probably went a little too aggressive with that. But we do still have a Super Rod hiding somewhere. So that's something to be keeping in the back of our head. Now, if our opponent does decide to shred us again, they aren't going to get KO. And we are only 10 damage off from KO on the Giratina. So shouldn't be impossible for us to actually KO that Giratina. But if they evolve... Here's the reason why I think they're not evolving. I think they threw away too many energy in the early game. And by evolving, they're probably going to have no way to attack. So that's why I think they've been shredding instead of using the Giratina. Although I do find it interesting that they used 4 for a Seal Stone instead of using the impact. The Lost Impact for KO. Or Star Requiem. So they have 7 cards left in deck. Guys, it might not be impossible for us to pull off a great Tusk play here. And kind of speed things along that way. Because if it looks like they're digging for something, right? So my opponent looks like they are digging for something and they just can't hit it. So if they pass here, we might go for a great Tusk play. Going for a Boss's Orders. I think they might just pass. We'll see what they do, but if they pass, attaching to the Sableye. Okay, so they're trying to trap something here. They're not going to get a KO on anything. I think we have to go for a great Tusk play. Yeah, we're not going to be able to knock out the Sableye, but honestly, that I think is fine because they can't knock out the Great Tusk. We'll just use Great Tusk again and we'll mill them out completely. So I think what they're digging for, they didn't hit, and if we can hit it off the Great Tusk, we should just win this game. We should 100% just win this game. Okay, all damage going to the Greninja. That is fine. You can have my Greninja. I am totally okay with that, buddy. I think it might be time. Okay, so let's go ahead and put down this Artazon, and we are going to use it. We will grab the Great Tusk, and then we are going to Sada. We will get an energy here. We will get an energy here. We'll draw 3. And because we used a Sada, we can discard 4. So we'll go ahead and Switch Cart. And we will Land Collapse, discarding 4 cards from their deck. Boss, Mimikyu, and a Giratina V-Star. So we probably didn't hit what they want, but we did get rid of a Boss's Orders, which isn't bad. But now they are on a big timer. They're down 1 Super Rod, though. They could hold another Super Rod in hand. There's another Super Rod in here. In the Lost Zone. I wonder if they prized a 3rd Super Rod or if they only play 2. We'll find out. We will find out. So there's an attach for the turn onto the Giratina V. And if they leave this Great Tusk alive, and they... Okay! We just won by deck out thanks to Great Tusk. Great Tusk is insane! And because this is Lost Mine, it is not going to do any super effective damage to our Great Tusk. So that is perfect. We have an Explorer's Guidance in hand to discard the rest of the cards in our opponent's deck. So waiting for the late game to use Great Tusk really helped our favor. Yep, we are going to just go ahead and use this. Doesn't matter what we grab. Throw the rest of that away. And we will Land Collapse. We had 1 card left in deck, but we got rid of their deck. They're going to draw nothing, and we are going to win by deck out thanks to Great Tusk. So being able to pivot between so many different ways oh man, I don't even have words. I don't have words. This deck is insane. You guys need to try it out. Need to. Alright guys, so that is going to be it for today's video. I truly appreciate you guys stopping by and watching. This deck is insane. Being able to pivot between having big attackers, being able to pivot to mill, being able to just have these single prize Pokemon that are super bulky really makes all the difference in the world. So again, try it out. The list will be in the description. You're gonna love it, guaranteed. So thank you for watching, and until next time, stay safe, be happy, and be kind.
Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.